Hello, my name is Connor Clement, and in this review I'm going to be comparing the Nikon 14 to 24mm and the Nikon 17 to 35mm lenses. Now the first thing you might be thinking is, well, aren't these two lenses pretty much the same? They are both wide-angle lenses, and shouldn't I just get the Nikon 14 to 24mm? No, that's definitely not true at all. They are two completely different lenses for completely different purposes. And you should definitely get one or the other based on how you like to take pictures. So first of all, the two lenses have completely different focal lengths. The Nikon 17 to 35mm is a wide-angle lens, ultra-wide-angle lens, and the Nikon 14 to 24mm on full-frame cameras is a ultra-wide-angle lens. Ultra-wide-angle lenses like the 14 to 24mm or 14mm give you a very different perspective than just normal wide-angle lenses. In fact, they actually make landscape photography look a little more abstract than normal. Unlike the Nikon 17 to 35mm lens, which is basically the standard range for most landscape photography that you will see. Now I'm going to go over a couple of differences between the two lenses. The Nikon 14 to 24mm, first off, is in fact a little bit sharper, especially at large f-stops, than the Nikon 17 to 35mm lens. Now keep in mind the 17 to 35mm lens is a lot older than the Nikon 14 to 24mm lens. But even so, for those of you who like to use large f-stops, it's good to keep in mind that the Nikon 14 24mm is definitely sharper at those larger f-stops. However, stop down to f-stop 5.6 or greater, the sharpness between the two lenses is pretty much the same. And the difference in sharpness between this lens and the 17 to 35mm lens at f-stop 2.8 should not be that big of a deal unless you take pictures at very large f-stops like f-stop 2.8 full time. A good plus for the Nikon 17 to 35mm is that it can actually take filters. That is very, very important, especially to landscape photographers who need a wide-angle lens. Nikon 14 to 24mm, the front is too big to be able to take any lens or any filter. The Nikon 17 to 35mm lens, however, can take any 77mm filter on it, which is definitely good, like I said, for those of you who are into landscape photography and need those filters. Lastly, the Nikon 70 to 35mm is quite a bit lighter and quite a bit cheaper as well than the Nikon 14 to 24mm lens. So basically, for those of you who love ultra-wide-angle photography, for example, ultra-wide sports photography is really what this lens was built for. Things like skateboarding, snowboarding, skiing, really up-close action shots where you need a fast shutter speed, very sharp image quality at bigger f-stops, and you need that ultra-wide capability. That's really what this lens was built for, and this is definitely the lens for you. Also, for those of you who landscape photographers who really like ultra-wide photography, like myself, like to get those abstract nature images at ultra-wide angles, then also the Nikon 14 to 24mm might be the lens for you. As for the 17 to 35mm, for most landscape photographers, that's the lens you want because it's definitely the ideal range for any landscape image. Also, I think it's a better lens for wedding photographers and portrait photographers as well, because you usually don't want to get really, really wide angles on someone's face because it doesn't make their face look natural at all. You usually want a wide angle zoom that's more in the standard zoom range, like the 17 to 35mm lens.